Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
We're back, baby. We're back, freeloaders. Don't get upset by that.
Right.
Coming off a Patreon exclusive episode last week, and we're back at it, ready to go this week. We got a tale of twisted sisters this week.
Oh, right. Have we not heard of this? Some of the most sadistic serial killers in Mexican history, I think, bar none, right?
Oh, yeah, man. This is...
I don't know who you can dig up. Maybe some kind of cartel shit.
The body
would be
count of
worse.
this one is appalling, really. But I guess if you divide it out between the sisters, it's not as bad. Like, they're not as prolific if you know,
When
if there's four of them, and then you divide up the death toll. It's still a lot per person,
I was
really.
about to say,
I mean, we're
it could
talking
be-
over 100, so...
I was about to say, it could be around 120. You're talking 30 kills each.
That's still like Bundy-esque if you divide it up. But really, it was more the work of two sisters than four.
Well,
Like,
there's
one of them
always the
died
masterminds.
midway through, and the other one moved away, like made her money, made her
Right.
pesos, and ran off.
See, that's the smart way to do it, right? If you get brought up in this stuff and you have no choice, maybe you're the younger sister and you're kind of going along with it so you don't get killed or whatever, you make your money and then you dip, right? Once you got your
Yeah, she still ended
independence.
up in prison, so...
Well,
Because she was there for she was there for 10 years of it, so...
yeah, I think you deserve prison time for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the
this
way it
story
is.
is... It seems like something out of a horror fiction novel, but this is all real. It almost had like a cult vibe, but it's really not a cult because the young women that were brought in this was totally against their will. This is not.
Oh yeah, this is
there
like
was
it's like some American horror story shit right here. But I mean Mexican
Yeah.
horror story shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is terrible. But you ready to get into it?
we are. Yes, let's do it. The story of the Las Poquianchis, and we're gonna butcher a lot of Hispanic names and Mexican names and territories, and just
That's
get
right.
ready for that.
But we're pretty sure on Poquianchis though. I think that's pretty good pronunciation right there. You got
I tried to really make sure I got that one right because it's going to be the title of the episode.
right. That makes sense.
But who knows?
You can have it hard or easy, but you will fear the Poquianchis. You can have it hard or easy, but you will fear the Poquianchis. Come on in, gentlemen. Have a seat. I use that word loosely because where our paths meet, there's no such thing. There's just predator and prey. It's the only way, the way we're taught, and it's the way it'll stay. We don't believe in God, we rule here. Those Poquianchis, there's no leaving here. You do what you're told. No share of the gold. You do what you're told, and you will never grow old. The charade runs deep. Your future starts to deplete. Forced to do the unthinkable, you arrive with hope unsinkable. But the sisters have a way of making poison drinkable. You'll lap it up until you're on your knees. You can have it hard or easy, but you will fear the Poquianchis. You can have it hard or easy, but you will fear the Poquianchis. But you will fear the Poquianchis. You can have it hard or easy, but you will fear the Poquianchis.
All right, our case this week is the Las Poquianchis,
Nailed it.
a group of four sisters in Mexico that became some of the most terrifying and prolific serial killers in history. It's believed that between 1945 and 1964, they committed around 150 murders, although the official number of victims was 91. However, there was another pit found with many bodies, many skeletons in it after their conviction.
Years later.
After they were put in, many years
So-
later, there was another pit found on their property.
So in theory, someone could have just buried a bunch of bodies there and thought, even if these
Yeah.
get found,
it'll just get attributed
yeah,
to
it'll get
them.
attributed to them.
That's a good That's a you know what? That's a good system.
Yeah, because I mean, what are the chances you don't find a whole pit of bodies at the time you're excavating all of the land? You find 91, but you don't find another pit of 20. I feel like I would keep looking.
And the sisters at that point knew the jig was up, and they were walking around pointing
Yeah.
out the areas where the bodies were. So it's not like they had anything to hide.
Right?
At that
Why
point.
not just build the story, the lore, whatever at that point?
Maybe this is another episode in the making, Michael. Maybe this was another serial killer that decided to dump the bodies on their property and let them take the blame.
What have
for
we
it.
stumbled upon?
I know, right?
We need to dig deeper.
Right. Even if it is 91, which was the official number, that's appalling. And
Oh yeah, that's
unbelievable.
devastating enough. And it sucks though that it's 91 because when murders get this high,
It almost takes a level of corruption, right, for it to get that high. Because, like, man, you can't fly under the radar with 91.
no doubt,
victims.
no doubt. That's one point for sure. But it also takes a lot of emphasis off of the victims, which sucks in a case like this. We have no information
Yes,
on
for sure.
victims whatsoever, and because the number is so
There was
high,
a famous quote from a historian, I think. It was like, or it might have been, who was it? Anyways, there's a famous quote from history. I'm sure someone will let us know, but it was, "One death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a
Yes.
statistic." And that's, you get to a number where, yeah, it just kind of, you can't put a ton of focus on 91 different victims in an episode of a podcast.
Right.
It's just not enough time.
or in anything. That's why they get lost to history.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no
Yeah.
medium for that. I mean,
No.
I don't know. You could focus on certain ones, I guess. Certain stories that stood out, but even then, it's like good luck finding information on any of those.
Yeah, well, there's also, in this case in particular, there's a certain lack of detail to the actual specific crimes themselves. We have modus operandi. We have, how they were acquiring these victims and how they were killing them and all that, but we don't get, specific details on, individual victims and
Right.
things like
And
that.
again, that can be contributed to the high number count. It's like they had such an obvious modus operandi because they had 91 victims that it's not, there's no point in going through every single individual crime because, like, you get the point. And now we are going to give some very specific, hard to hear examples of crimes that they committed. Like, don't get it twisted. We are going to go into the detail about that, but we just don't know what individual victims suffered these consequences, right?
Yeah. So let's get into it and get ready for some of me stumbling through these pronunciations. But
We got this.
yeah, so born in Arapahoe.
Well, maybe not.
Right off
Maybe
the bat.
not.
How would you say that one?
Irapuato?
Irapuato, in the state of Guanajuato. The
Guanajuato.
Gonzalez sisters, Delfina, Maria de Jesus, Carmen, and Luisa, grew up in a poor, broken home with a violent father and a very religious
Oh, this is
mother.
going to be fine. Yeah.
Right.
This
will
doesn't
pan out.
lead to any serial killers ever. Violent? No. I mean, right? This can't be a bad
It
concoction.
really shouldn't be a shock they turned out the way they did.
Yeah, it's really not all their fault in hindsight.
You know what? Something I never really considered, but when it comes to the parents of serial killers, it seems like a lot of times the two parents are on totally different ends of the spectrum, and that kind of
That rips at them.
maybe that confusion on the child's part. Like a lot of times you have one parent who's really religious, the other one is abusive, or
Right.
one is like completely just ignores the child, while the other one is overbearing. Something along those lines, where they're not on the same. The parents are not on the same
Exactly.
page.
You know what's funny though? In society, we're told, mainly by Paula Abdul and other pop culture icons, that opposites attract. Right? Opposites attract. People say
Yeah,
that all the
right.
time, and that
It's
is
true.
pretty true. I mean, there are a lot of ways.
Yeah, me and my wife are very different.
Same thing with me and my wife. There's in a lot of aspects we are completely different, and I love that because I can still learn things from her. But we don't think about how.
That doesn't mean the parents can't get together,
Right,
a
right.
couple, and get on the same page with each other as far as how they're raising their kids. Me and my wife constantly have little powwows like, hey, I think we need to tweak this or that on how we're approaching this. You can't be inconsistent with them. One parent can't be saying one thing and the other one saying something different.
No doubt. And but that's what I was saying. When you let those opposites interfere with the way that you parent and the way that you teach your children, you have to be on the same page there, or it can be extremely confusing.
You're a
for them.
team. You're a little team, basically.
Yeah.
You're raising
Yeah,
kids.
exactly.
It's like if you look at any kind of sports team, or like even your coworkers, if you're kind of do a project together, you use your individual strengths, but you still have the same goal in mind. You're still trying to work together to get something done.
Exactly.
So their father Isidro Torres would beat them up constantly and made them witness executions of prisoners since he worked as a policeman.
Jeez, it's barbaric.
He was part of the rural police in Mexico, in charge of riding through towns and making sure that everything was okay. And as we know, there's oftentimes corruption in those cities, and he often abused his power.
Well, yeah,
When his young
because
daughter,
he's so far outside the cities. You know, there's no one really holding him accountable out there as this rural
And this
police.
was
I bet it's like
the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and it's like still pretty
right. It's like one step up from a militia.
pretty wild.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like these guys are. I don't think because you can't really find that he was an actual cop. And then some articles were like he works security / police, and I'm like,
Some
what?
says he's a sheriff. Some said
Yeah.
security.
I'm
Yeah,
like, is he security? Or
you know,
is he
you almost get
sheriff?
like a Walker Texas Ranger type of feel from it.
Right. It's pretty much like, you know, I'll stand up for this town. I'll manage this town if no one else wants to do it. You know what I mean? I think.
And I'll by any means necessary make it happen.
Well, there's always perks that come with that, right? Being the authority, being the sheriff. They're obviously, especially in these small towns, the '60s.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, he abused his power quite often. When his young daughters wore makeup or risque clothing not to his liking, he would lock them up in the town jail to teach them
Yeah,
a
that'll
lesson.
teach them. They definitely won't run off next time. That always works. Just lock them in a tower.
Right,
There you go.
right.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I feel like shaming your daughters as a father too like that is going to definitely not, it's going to
Yeah,
backfire.
gonna backfire.
They're going to maybe get to the point where they're going to start doing things just to, bother you in that way.
Like kill 91 people. That's
Well,
the worst.
not so much that, but I mean,
I hate it. I was just kidding.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh! Didn't one of his daughters
Hate it
want to
when that
run away?
happens.
One of his daughters did run away, or tried to.
One of his daughters did run away, yeah. So Carmen.
Yeah.
Carmen, which I believe was the oldest, she attempted to run away with her boyfriend, and Isidro found them, beat her up, and locked her in jail.
Again, there we go.
And on this occasion, he actually left her in jail as they left town because he kills someone. So, shortly after Carmen tries to run away, he locks her up in jail. Shortly after that, he kills a man during an argument. And after killing that man, Isidro had too many enemies in this area and felt it was time to flee. So him, along with his wife, the girl's mother, they fled and relocated to the small village of San Pancho. And by doing so, they left Carmen in jail.
That's
Carmen,
fucked up. I wonder if they forgot about her. He was probably like,
there's no way you just forget your daughter.
No,
I think he just left her there to prove a point, or I don't
Yeah.
know.
but it didn't work out because she's apparently just like him.
Yeah.
Right.
She's stubborn as well. She would end up escaping jail with one of fellow inmates and dropped the Valenzuela from her last name. So it was Valenzuela Gonzalez. All the girls, they had that hyphenated last name.
Right.
And she would drop the Valenzuela going by just Gonzalez to avoid her father following this. From
Wow,
here, she
I
would
would
go on
too.
to, yeah, right?
I mean, damn, he left you in another town in jail.
yeah.
and he
was
could've
always
let
an
you out.
abusive piece of shit father anyway, so.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
She would later be reunited with her sisters and start this new industry of, bringing in young girls and selling them and killing them, and more on that. But she, for now, escapes from jail, and she would open a liquor store to make ends meet with her then boyfriend. And that would go on for a little while until the parents would die. The sisters' parents, Isidro and their mother, they would die, and they would inherit a small sum of money. And they, together with that money, the sisters would reunite and they would open a saloon in San Pancho. And this bar, although it did not bring in tons of money, it gave them enough to eat, and they would get by. And then they would start learning. They would start learning how things work.
That's right. Now they become business owners. Now they're in the community. Now they're working with law enforcement. This is when they start to build the empire right here.
I wonder if there was a bit of those connections because their father was in law enforcement, if they'd met some, corrupt policemen, and it kind of helps them when they start these businesses.
Well, I'm not sure once they moved to San Pancho if their father was in law enforcement anymore. I think he kind of laid low once they got out there. And this saloon is actually in San Pancho, so they probably had kind of a clean slate at this point. But
so maybe they didn't have connections, but they knew how shit worked. They knew there was a lot of corruption within law enforcement at this time.
Right.
And
And
so
they're also selling alcohol, something that's always going to be a hot item.
especially
saying?
during the time period, the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's still hot now.
Yeah. Right. So they would acquire bar permits from corrupt officers, which they would offer free sexual services to. Soon they would venture into a much more profitable industry, though, sex work. The sisters would once again bribe local officials with money, or the sisters would bribe them with sex. Nevertheless, they opened the clandestine brothels in San Francisco del Rincon, and in Leon and in Guanajuato. So they started opening these brothels basically all over the place. Like
Yeah.
in cities all over Mexico, they start opening these brothels.
And they're just outside. All these cities that they're opening them in are just outside Mexico City. So they're like
Yeah.
in the perfect spot. They're not in Mexico City and having to abide by all those guidelines and restrictions or whatnot.
Yeah.
They're like on the outskirts, buying and trading their way with local law enforcement there. It's pretty incredible what they built.
And they would they came up with this system where they would have partners in charge of searching for teenage girls, and this would be the girls that would work in their brothels. These girls would be from 12 to 15 years old, and they would find them either on local farms or in the street.
That's
They would
awful.
they would have their partners go out and prowl the countryside, hitting the nearby ranches of Guanajuato, or venture into Jalisco or Michoacan states
Yeah.
and look for the prettiest young girls. And they would offer them jobs. These girls were, most of them came from poor families that were struggling.
Oh, of course, of course. And that was part of the promise, come make money for your family, and then
Yep.
you can feed your family by just being a waitress or a maid.
Yep,
You know,
exactly.
no talk about the brothel
No,
in the
of
sales
course not.
pitch.
You don't hit them with that right away.
No, that's in the fine print. That's the last page of the brochure, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so they would offer them these jobs. Then these poor girls with dreams of life in the big city and money would be happy to oblige. This was an offer that hadn't come to them before. All they knew was life on their small farm with their family and poverty. And this is exciting. This is like you're moving to Hollywood almost type of thing. Like you got
Well,
discovered.
This was exactly. That's what I was just about to say. This was so exciting that some parents actually sold their daughters into this.
Yeah.
Whether or not they knew what the fate of their daughter was going to
You would
be,
hope
it was
not.
just like I could provide for my whole family for like a year off of what they're giving me for my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I mean, a lot of these Mexican families, they had larger families that were working farms and, like you said, living in smaller villages. That's a big sum of money right there, and
Yeah.
you don't think that they're going to kill your daughter.
Right.
I mean,
You think, we're getting a sum of money for this, and also she's going to be better off. She's
right,
going to be working in the big city and whatnot.
right, exactly. And then she'll come back and tell us of her adventures and bring wealth and spread it throughout the family and change our
Yeah.
change our lineage. But not the case.
Yeah. So they sent out these business partners of them to discover these young girls. Other times, the Gonzalez sisters, with the help of an army captain and Delfina's lover, Hermenegildo Zuniga, would simply snatch the young girls. So, just straight up abduct them from the streets or from a farm,
Right.
if they weren't able to convince them to come.
And you have the local military helping you. So,
Unbelievable,
like,
right?
who the
That's a
hell is
crazy
going to
level
stand
of
up to
corrupt-
you? Yeah, who's going to stand up to you at that point?
Yep. And so at their Guadalajara de Noche and Barca de Oro bars, the young girls would be put to work. The prettiest virgins were saved for later, awaiting patrons with fat wallets who would pay top pesos for untouched girls. So they would have them just basically working as waitresses, and until the big money bags guys would come in, and then they would be offered up.
Yeah,
Pretty-
and then they would kill the big money bags guys and take all their big bags of money.
That's speculative, but also probably true.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's true as well. Depending on who they are, obviously not well-connected government officials and whatnot. Let's not get
Yeah,
carried
yeah.
away.
Yeah.
But if any,
It depends
any
on the
Joe Schmo-
circumstances. If they were traveling through from a faraway city, and it was a bit of a bloody bender situation where they felt like they could whack the dude and no one would
Dude,
know
that
where
is-
he had ended up.
Yep. That's the exact reference I was about to make. I mean, they were pulling a Bloody Benders type situation here. Instead of a bed and breakfast, they're talking about a brothel and a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the prettiest young virgin girls would be saved, but the others would be raped, intimidated, and showered with ice cold water upon initiation when they would arrive. They would have to buy their clothes and makeup strictly from the Gonzalez sisters, and this would put them in a level of like indentured servitude. Basically, they had nothing. They were coming from these
Yeah.
poor families, and so in order for
You
them
talk
to do
about
their
corrupt.
jobs, they had to be dolled up, and of course the Gonzalez sisters would provide them with this stuff, and then they would be basically indebted to them forever.
Well, yeah, they would they would pay these girls or whatever a small cut, and then they would have to give the money back to them to eat and have
Right.
clothes. It's so sadistic. It's like the most corrupt organization you could possibly be running.
Yeah.
You're basically enslaving people,
Oh yeah.
and then
I don't even know why they even bothered with that trade because it was so clearly that the girls were not allowed to leave. That they were, they were stuck there.
yeah, I know. I guess it's just tax reasons. Just look good on the books.
Yeah,
I
we're
have
paying
no
these
idea.
girls. Yeah, they're 12, but they're good
Oh my
waitresses. Like, can you imagine? Like, it's bizarre to even like think that it was allowed. Like, people were walking into bars where 12-year-old girls were serving drinks and whatnot, and
Right.
like
And
they
we're
got
not-
away with it for as long as they did. That just shows you how much corruption there was.
That's right. And we're not talking about Wild West. We're not talking about 1800s. We're talking
No,
about
50s and
1950s and 60s, y'all.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
It's insane how far.
So
we've
the
come.
girls were held against their will. They were never allowed to go outside. They were controlled by the sisters. And Zuniga, the Black Eagle, Delfina's son, Ramon Torres El Tepo, also served as muscle, keeping the girls in line. So they had these two men in their lives. One of them being Delfina's son, and then the other one being one of the sisters' lovers, the Black Eagle. And
Right.
they were, the muscle, but also they were like executioners to the girls because there was obviously a lot of bodies that start piling up.
And they were also like enforcers to the girls as well. It just depends, whatever had to be done.
Man, it's dark. It's dark. It's dark to think that like the sisters, maybe most of the time they had like a kind of a good vibe around the young girls until they screwed up, and then I just picture them like giving a look to one of these two evil bastards, the Black Eagle
yeah.
or El Tepo, and like, okay, she's out of here, that type of
Yep.
thing.
And that's it. And then they never find you because people don't even know where you are in the first place,
Yeah.
And who do you go tell? Who do you go tell? That's the thing.
No,
You can't go tell the cops. You can't go tell the army. You can't go. What do you do?
Yeah, everyone's
Such a
corrupt. You
trap.
don't know who you can try and tell. Like there
That's
was
right.
one brave soul, one young girl escapes later on and does make it to authorities and actually is lucky enough to find a police officer or police station that wasn't corrupt, and that's how this whole house of cards comes crumbling down. But
Yeah. But that's later.
so the way this thing was going, though, when one of the girls got pregnant, she would be beaten and forced to abort. The fetuses would be dumped in the backyards of the brothels or buried at the sisters' main ranch that resembled a concentration camp. It was called Loma del Angel. So they had this just evil ranch where they were, killing these young girls and burying them and burning their bodies. Also, if a girl got too sick due to malnourishment or an STD or due to an impromptu abortion, she would be locked in a room, starved to death, or the other girls would be forced to beat her to death with sticks and heavy logs. See, this is where I'm just
That's
blown away by
insane.
the evil that is going on. It's so unnecessary. Like, they have a very successful criminal enterprise going on here using
Apparently,
these young
because
girls. But then why the just sadistic nature of the way they treated these girls? That's the part I don't understand. They were just sick and twisted
fear,
people.
because they wanted to
Fear,
invoke
yeah.
fear. They wanted to invoke so much fear that you would do whatever you want. If you could make innocent girls, 12 and 15-year-old girls, beat another girl to death, that is fear.
Yeah,
They don't want to be that person.
that's true. Then they stay in line because they don't want to be the one getting beaten next.
Exactly. Like, imagine that. And then also, it kind of turns everyone against each other. It's like the peers on peers type thing. It's like, it's like a tactic they still use in sports. Like, we've talked about it before. Like, okay, everybody's running again because of this guy.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And then and I bet you a lot of times these girls took it out on each other. You know what I'm saying? Because they had no one else. They had no power over anyone else.
yeah,
It's such a trap.
nuts. Absolutely, it's hard to believe this was real. So the Black Eagle and the sister chauffeur handled the bodies, burning them to ashes or burying them in mass graves. Johns with a lot of cash would also be murdered and their bodies buried and their cash stolen. We kind of alluded to that a little bit of a Bloody Bender situation where I'm sure it depended on who the person was, how big of a deal he was, and how far away he came from. Like if people were able to trace them back, then people might be after the sisters if they had some powerful friends. But
Right.
I guess it just depended on the circumstances.
You know what else I just thought about? We alluded to the 91 bodies, but they burned a lot of them. Holy shit. How many did they burn that weren't accounted for? I think 100, 120 is low, probably, for the victims at this place.
Well, I mean, even if you burn a body, it's hard to get it to where there's nothing left. It takes a long time. Bones take a long time.
Yeah,
to
they don't
really
have like
burn
an
until it's
incinerator.
ashes.
They don't have an
No.
incinerator.
Yeah, you're
I
not
guess.
talking, 1,000-degree.
It's not
fucking,
cremation,
like what-
right?
no.
I got you.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, just burning bodies in a pit. It's gonna. It takes a long time.
That's true.
I think we learned that from the Dennis Nielsen episode, didn't we? Where he was trying to do that, like in his fucking.
Dennis Nielsen was burning
Common
them
area.
right there in the garden, man. Right there in the backyard. He didn't give a shit. Just carried him out. Oh, hey, how's it going? Just having another bonfire.
Yeah, we're having a
tonight.
barbecue tonight, mates.
Yeah.
Come on
Come on
over.
over and join if you like.
Yeah.
Hanging out in the garden.
Yeah. So, also, young women who disobeyed or tried to escape or rebel against the sisters were tortured and killed. The girls were considered old when they reached 25 years old. They were taken to a ranch where they would be locked up without food or water for several days at that point. Just imagine just being punished, being tortured and starved to death because you hit 25 years old.
You know what? I don't think they were trying to torture them or starve them to death. I think that was just to get them off the floor. We'll deal with them later. And they didn't care if they died because they were gonna, when they got time, they were gonna kill them and dispose
Why
of them
waste
anyways.
resources on them at that point if you're
Exactly.
thinking about the way
they're
they
like,
are.
okay, they're done. Nobody likes them anymore. Whatever. They're
Send them
25.
out to pasture,
Oh, no.
basically.
Exactly. Send them to wherever we hold them, and until we can dispose of them.
When I think about it, I'm like, the rich, quote unquote, rich people that they killed as well. I'm like, fuck them. I kind of feel that way because it's like they're basically pedophiles. Like if they're patrons of these brothels where there's 12, 13-year-old freaking slaves, basically.
And you know
they're
that.
having
You know that shit.
Yes.
You know exactly what you're going
I
to
have no
get at
sympathy
that
for them
brothel.
getting whacked.
True that. Whatever. Take them out, Black Eagle.
Yeah, right. That's the only good thing the Black Eagle was doing was killing those fuckers too.
Yeah.
So Salvador Bocanegra, a.k.a. the Executioner, worked also for the sisters, and he would allegedly kick them against a wall with a nail on many occasions. And then
That is so savage, bro.
Oh my God.
Fuck. I've read that like 3 times before I was trying to understand what you wrote in the timeline. I was like, what do you mean kick him against the wall with the nail?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I see what you mean. So there's a giant nail sticking out of the wall and he kicks him back against it.
That's just
Right?
so sick and twisted, man.
What the fuck?
Like literally out of a horror novel, right? Like you're like, this can't be real.
I mean,
But as we
why would
know,
you not
we've-
just shoot him? This is, I mean, oh God. It's like they probably didn't want to waste the ammo. That's how sadistic these people were.
Part of me hopes that a lot of this was just them talking shit. Like, because who knows what they did with the girls one-on-one when they, took them to like the execution part of the farm.
Yeah.
They may have just shot them or killed them quickly, and then they were spreading these sadistic lies to the other girls to scare them. I'm hoping that's maybe what it was, because we get this. I think we get most of this from, the surviving girls that were recovered.
Right.
I think so who knows whether they witnessed some of this stuff, like the nail on the wall, or whether they were just told this, like to keep them in line.
I think they definitely witnessed this stuff. Why wouldn't you?
Well,
show them?
supposedly some of them were commissioned with beating other girls to death with sticks. So
Right.
I'm going to lean
That's what I'm
towards
saying.
most of this being true.
And that would also that in itself is another way to entrap them, because it's like, well, look, now you guys, I have evidence that you guys murdered her. All of you girls killed her. You murdered her physically.
Fuck you though. Like if I'm on a jury and like you're trying to sit here and act like those girls are culpable,
Yeah.
and
Well, right.
like-
You know that, but does a 12 and 15-year-old girl know that?
true, doesn't matter, right? It just matters what they
It
believe.
just matters their perception. Like, oh my God, I killed somebody. I'm just as bad as these people. Maybe I deserve to be here. You see what I'm saying? It's a psychological game too. You don't entrap and kill that many people without playing some psychological games. You don't have enough muscle to take on to hold all that. With just two people and two guys and three sisters, there was some psychological games going on here. And you're right, a lot of it could have been exaggerated on purpose. But why though? I feel like they don't have any reason.
If they were willing to do a lot of the stuff they actually did, with the beating with sticks and stuff, then who's
where do you draw the line?
Going to do supposedly also Salvador, aka the executioner, would also bury girls alive, throw them off a roof or anything to get rid of them.
Oh,
we don't typically put a disclaimer on our episodes, but we might want to you might want to throw one in.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this one, because this one is extra brutal. Considering these are young teen girls, and
yeah, that's true. This one is brutal. It eludes you because once the mentioning of their age is in most articles, it's once, and then when you read through the brutality that happened to these young women, really, you forget that they were just kids. They're just children. I mean,
and did
my oldest daughter's
nothing.
13.
They were literally taken away from their farms where their families and
right. Promised a future. You know what I'm saying? It's so sadistic in so many ways.
Yeah.
So many ways.
Yeah. If there is a hell, man, there's a special place for these sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the men who were carrying out their fucking darkest parts of this farm,
Yeah. But, you think about it, though. It's what choice did, the son? One of them was the son. He was raised here. It's I don't know how you deal with someone like that. I don't know if there's any rehabilitation, but also it's he doesn't even know right from wrong.
Yeah.
His world is so misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
Those victims and these girls were the same thing. They were raised in this world. They were raised in this brutal, corrupt world with their father, witnessing killings all the time. This was just normal.
Finding the right program to help your child learn to read can be daunting. You have to find something that's both engaging and proven to get results. Hooked on Phonics has been the most trusted program to help kids learn to read for nearly 35 years, which is why I decided to get their program for my kids. So we've been using Hooked on Phonics for the past 2 weeks in my house. Every night we sit down. My daughter loves the storybooks. My son obviously loves the interactive and engaging app, which makes learning fun. He thinks he's playing games, and I'm happy because he's learning. He's already starting to impress his daycare teachers with all the new words that he's learned to spell. Can't wait to see months from now, if we continue at this pace, where they're going to be. Hooked on Phonics is the learn-to-read curriculum that uniquely combines an amazing app with hands-on learning materials shipped to your home every month. With Hooked on Phonics, you get unlimited access to their powerful reading app, along with workbooks that give your child essential hands-on practice to reinforce the skills they're building in the app. Plus, you'll get the storybooks written specifically to build your child's confidence, and discussion questions to increase reading comprehension. Lessons take just 20 minutes or less, and the curriculum is guaranteed to help your child learn to read. Give your child the confidence that reading brings with Hooked on Phonics. Visit hookedonphonics.com/creeper and receive your first month for just $1. That's hookedonphonics.com/creeper to get your first month of Hooked on Phonics for just $1. hookedonphonics.com/creeper. CREEPER.
What's up, creepers? Let me tell you about a new way to look dope and still save money. It's a new app called Poshmark. It's a free app where you can easily clean out your closet and sell items for cash. And there are tons of cool brands on there like Lululemon, Nike, Louis Vuitton, Jordan, Adidas, all for up to 70% off. And what's cool? If you're new to Poshmark, you can use a referral code, True Crime Guys, with no spaces, and you can get $10 off your first purchase. And as I alluded to earlier, you can clean out your closet and be a seller on Poshmark as well. When you make a sale, Poshmark sends you an email with the shipping label. You tape it to the box, drop it at the post office, or schedule a pickup. Boom, you're done. It's actually a really cool idea because as you're selling your old things, you can then use that money in your Poshmark account to buy new things. Right? Out with the old, in with the new. It's pretty dope. It's like, I'm not using real money. I'm just trading my things. Pretty amazing. And like I said, because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can get $10 off your first purchase. Just enter the invite code True Crime Guys with no spaces, just like our logo, when you sign up. That's invite code True Crime Guys.
No, humans are, I mean, we are a product of our surroundings in large
Yes.
part. You look at people of the past, you know, like during the Dark Ages, and like they were so much more, like they were excited to go watch executions. Like, I guess a certain number of our population nowadays would also grab popcorn and want to go watch that, but most current day people would be scarred if they did. And I think less than half of people would even want to see it in the first place.
Right.
But back then, that was like your main source of entertainment. It was like,
That's right.
somebody's being tortured today. Like,
Well, you didn't.
know?
You didn't get to see it on Netflix and YouTube and Hulu all the time. You know,
True.
you couldn't watch 10 seasons of The Walking Dead and see plenty of gore for entertainment. So you had to do that, and everyone was going to be
You
there.
had to get what you could get, right?
Yeah, and everybody was going to be there too. It was like it was an event. It was an event.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these people were famous. You know what I'm saying? Like people got these criminals that got hung in the street. Like they were front page news for a while. People knew about this shit. It was a media frenzy. There's a lot of money involved in these executions too, I think, back in the day.
Right. That was like the old school version of canceling somebody.
Oh God. Yeah. That's like deleting. That's delete culture right there, bro.
Right. The tabloids have spoken.
That's delete culture. Holy shit. Yeah. Hopefully we never get to that. Ooh.
Right.
Yeah, that's intense. It's a good point though.
Yeah. So for many years, the sisters made tons of money selling booze and sex with the young girls to soldiers, councilmen, cops, and horny villagers. And in the late 1950s, one of the sisters, Carmen, would die due to cancer. So it'd be down to 3. Then shortly after that, Maria de Jesus, the youngest of the sisters, would also be out of the picture. She, after 10 years of working with her sisters, had gathered 39,000 pesos and decided that she was out. However, she would be later captured or I think she turns herself in after all of this comes to light.
Oh, wow.
And she would come to justice, thankfully. However, she would be the only one that would make it out of prison later on.
Right.
So we'll talk more about her. In 1963, Ramon Torres El Tepo, one of the executioners on the farm, got into an argument with Jalisco cops and was shot to death inside one of the Gonzalez sisters' brothels.
He's the son. He's one of their sons. Ramon.
That's right. Yeah, he was Carmen's son, right? The oldest.
I believe so. Carmen,
the sisters.
Yeah, Carmen, also the one that got left in the jail while they moved.
Yes, yes.
Well,
quite possibly the most evil of them. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I'd say she's a
a
product of her upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her son El Tepo was shot, and of course the sisters are not going to let this go unpunished.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So the police would close down the place, and it said that Delfino. Oh, it was Delfina. That was her son.
Yep.
El Tepo's mother was Delfina. She was in a fit of rage following her son's death and ordered Hermenegildo to track down the cops who killed her son and kill them on the spot. And of course, this deed was done. So the cops that killed El Tepo were met with the hand of Delfina's justice.
And knowing El Tepo's reputation, those cops probably shot him because he shot at them or attacked them. You know what I'm saying? Right. It was probably a self-defense. These cops are like, we're just trying to save our lives. We're not even trying to be super cops out here. And then now they got killed.
Yeah, I mean, it was at one of the, it was at Delfina's bar or brothels. So I'm sure El Tepo felt like he was running that shit. And then the cops made have been like a pissing contest going on there.
That's true too. Good point.
Yeah, so let's talk about how this whole thing comes to light. And as I mentioned earlier, the house of cards comes crumbling down. In January of 1964, they'd been on one hell of a run for a long time.
Yes, they had.
Running
Too
this
long.
Amazingly successful venture, having brothels all over Mexico, bars, all of these successful businesses pumping money into their pockets. One of the Gonzalez sisters in January of 1964, one of the girls from this from one of the brothels managed to escape from Loma de Angel through a small opening in the wall and fled.
Hell yeah.
Zuniga and his cronies searched for this girl named Ortega to kill her, but they could not find her throughout the countryside. Ortega managed to get a hold of her mother, and together they went into the into Leon, Guanajuato, the police department, to file a complaint. And as they got lucky in that this was one of the few areas, this station they went into, they came across a cop who was not corrupt and actually managed to, just make these discoveries of what had been going on. So in the first weeks of January 1964, Catalina Ortega went to the judicial police office in Leon, Guanajuato, and told the unbelievable tale of what she had been a part of. Visibly shaken, scared, and showing signs of abuse and malnourishment, Catalina told the police that in nearby San Pancho, the Gonzalez sisters held a murderous concentration camp / brothel. And as I mentioned, she was in luck that the cops she talked to were not on the Sinister Sisters payroll. That could be the name for this episode. Las Poquianchis, the Sinister Sisters.
The Sinister Sisters. Yeah. Good name.
So the police would soon get a search warrant and an arrest warrant for the Gonzalez sisters. On January 14th, 1964, they raided Loma del Angel Ranch. So this was the ranch, the infamous ranch where they had been.
A lot of the bodies were buried here.
Yes, I think most of them, if not all. And there's pictures. There's famous pictures of them being led, or them leading police around the ranch and pointing out spots where bodies were buried. And man, they're
dark.
Their whole vibe is so fucking evil, right?
Yeah.
Like these are black and white pictures, which just kind of intensify it even more because they're just all black head to toe.
Yes.
And like a lot of the police are dressed in like khaki pants and whatnot, and you just see these like witches walking around.
Yeah, it has a lot to do, I guess, with the graininess of the photo too. It just looks like something out of a horror movie. Just the dark, cloudy skies, the way it looks like.
Yeah, you got to check out those pictures. So, they're the sisters, still dressed in black, were wearing shawls. Oh, they were all dressed in black, but maybe because they were still mourning El Tepo's death. This was just following that police officer shooting El Tepo, so that could have had something to do with it. I like to think that they were just always that evil looking, though.
I don't know. I'm looking at another picture now, and they're wearing one's wearing a white dress and one's wearing like a light colored dress. So they switched it up a little. I think you're pretty on point with the mourning of El Tepo's death. I think it's still going on here. Yeah.
So they're walking the police around this ranch. Meanwhile, there's angry villagers gathered outside demanding that they be lynched for their crimes. Police and reporters there found a dozen emaciated and dirty women at the ranch locked in a room. And I'm sure this is where they would get a lot of the details of the way that these girls were being treated was from these girls, these survivors. As police and reporters explored the ranch, some of the girls pointed to spots in the ground and told them that that's where they would find the bodies. Authorities inside those holes found decomposed bodies and the bones of at least 91 women, men, and fetuses. I'll just leave that sitting there for a minute. That's good God.
Is insane.
Yeah. Imagine just what that even looks like. 91 bodies in pits. Like, I mean, I guess if you go back, there's a lot of images from like the Holocaust and things like that that can give you kind of a mental image of it, but it's dark.
It doesn't get any easier. No. That's never something that gets easy to comprehend. Look at this. No. I'm looking at a photo now where they're standing on the edge of a pit.
All those experiences, all those loved ones and everything that all those people had. 91 people. Think about just the spider web
of hurt, of pain.
Yeah. And that's a big rock dropped in a pond with a lot of ripples coming off of that.
Oh, dude.
So, after several months of investigation, confrontation, and interrogations, the Gonzalez Valenzuela sisters were arrested and charged with kidnapping, human trafficking, and aggravated homicide. Under heavy military guard, the sisters were taken into a jail near San Francisco del Rincon. Now, keep in mind, they only have two sisters as of now because the one had died and the other one had left with her 39,000 pesos a while ago.
That's right. They still ain't caught up to her yet.
Yeah, and they wouldn't need to capture her. She would just get afraid for her own safety because there was such an outpouring of rage by the public, by villagers and whatnot, that all of these young daughters had been taken and killed. That she was more afraid of being captured by the villagers than she was by getting caught by the police.
Oh, of course, yeah, they would have killed her. They would have stoned her in the streets like she did to people.
Yeah,
sure.
So. as I said, the sisters were taken to jail in San Francisco, Del Rincon. But seeing as the whole town wanted to lynch the women, a judge sent them to Arapahoe City Jail just to kind of keep them safe until things played out. A week later, Maria Luisa Gonzalez Valenzuela went to a Mexico City police station and turned herself in, fearing being lynched. So now they have the 3 living sisters in custody. She thought she was immune, however. A judge had granted her immunity from the charges her sisters faced, but upon arriving in Arapahoe, she too was arrested. There began a hectic interrogation and sensational trial of the century.
The judge was like, just kidding. I actually didn't bang the gavel, so it was never finalized.
Right.
You believed it. You gotta wait for that gavel. No. That's so funny. I guess it was I guess it was probably a judge that wasn't even over the jurisdiction, right?
Yeah, different jurisdiction, probably.
Had no authority
or
over the
judge
case.
that said that was just lying. You know, I mean, there's a lot of corruption. Who's to stop him from lying to a fucking evil bitch like this? So.
Right. I would lie to her too, but yeah, sure, you got immunity.
I would tell her
Go on
whatever
in
I had
there.
to hear to get her to turn herself in. Yep.
No, turn yourself in.
Go on in. Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm sending in your immunity form right now. Yeah, faxing it right over.
Stamping it. Stamped.
Stamp it. Totally stamped.
Yeah, it's just got a stamp of a middle finger.
Right. It's on its way. Shit.
So thus began a scandalous tale of prostitution and murder, the most shocking in the annals of Mexican crime history. The tabloids and public couldn't get enough of the horrid details. Dozens of ex-sex workers accused the sisters of rape, murder, and extortion. I don't even think it's fair to call the girls that were brought in here. They're not sex workers. They were thrusted into something they wanted nothing to do with.
Right. I mean, by definition, they were.
Dozens of victims. Let's say dozens of victims accused the sisters of rape, murder, and extortion.
There you go. Because they were all victims, no doubt.
Oh, 100%. So the women accused the Poquianchis, as the women were dubbed by the media. Now, they were dubbed the Poquianchis because this was the name of one of the bars that they had opened, I believe. Or it was either a brothel or bar or a combination.
Mm-hmm.
And so they became dubbed Las Poquianchis because of this infamous brothel thing they had.
Right.
So they were accused of dabbling in Satanism, forcing the women to practice sexual acts on animals, and killing and torturing dozens of young girls and Johns. How much of that, the sexual acts on animals and Satanism was true is not proven. It's you know how the media can sensationalize things even further. Not that you needed to in this case. There was already enough of that.
Oh yeah, this is one of those real life is stranger than fiction type cases.
Yeah, you don't need to add in the satanic panic shit to it. It's not necessary.
They didn't need that either.
No,
they weren't concerned about that. They were just corrupt.
Yeah, so they accused Delfina Maria de Jesus of corruption and bribing local and state authorities who were also regulators in the sisters' bars and brothels. The trial would be brief yet chaotic, with plenty of yelling back and forth from the Gonzalez sisters and their accusers, and the judge would quickly end it by putting a sentence to the sisters for 40 years in prison for the 3 of them, which is pretty shocking to me. I mean, the fact that they could have potentially gotten out, and one of them actually does get out,
that's insane.
That is not justice, in my opinion.
No.
I feel like if you at all are a proponent for the death penalty, this is a case where it's justified, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so much premeditation.
I feel like
in
they should have just let the public lynch them, dude. Once you have enough evidence where you're 100% convinced that of their guilt, they pointed out the spots where the bodies were, and there's so many. There's not one witness. There's so many witnesses that were victims to these women that they captured. That they recovered from the ranch.
I feel like lynching just feels like better justice, doesn't it? For some reason, I don't know.
It does.
It's like it's because their crimes were so barbaric. It's like, well, you need a barbaric punishment as well, because it just what they did was just it's unforgivable. It doesn't 40 years just doesn't even. I can't believe it's not life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Any feelings I have in regards to the death penalty or capital punishment, any wavering I have is just for a matter of there's a certain percentage of people who are on death row who are innocent, and we've learned that because of coerced confessions and all the stuff we've learned over the course of this. We could pull out case after case of and they say the studies show that up to 2% or more of people on death row are innocent, and so if you kill That's the only argument against it. I think when it comes to certain criminals who do these heinous crimes, people like Ted Bundy, people like these sisters.
Right.
If you're convinced 100% that they did these crimes, and I don't waver at all. Kill them, please.
Right.
Like, that's just how I
you
feel.
just need evidence of one, but you have evidence of multiple with both of these people. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
So while in jail, Delfina, the oldest sister, started to go crazy, fearing that she would be murdered in jail. Thankfully for her, she would be put out of her misery by a falling concrete bucket, believe it or not. So, on October,
this is another one of those things. Like, you can't make this shit up.
I just refuse to believe this was an accident, though.
It was not an accident. This is go ahead and say it.
So
this
great.
is hilarious.
I'm sorry, it's funny because fuck this bitch. But it's just funny to me.
It is funny.
So on October 17th, which is actually coincidentally my birthday. This is a nice birthday gift before I was born. 1968, October 17th. While Delfina screamed and ranted in her cell, workers doing repairs above the cell in the Arapato jail looked down to catch a glimpse of the notorious woman and accidentally, quote unquote, dropped a bucket of cement on her head, killing her.
No, just
sorry. It's fucking funny.
Hey, heads up! Oh shit, we killed
Whoops.
her. Oh, ain't that bitch that
Right.
killed like 90 people though? Oh yeah, it's
They accidentally, and then they high-fived.
I got her. I mean, dude, I dropped a bucket.
Shit, man, sorry.
I wonder if it was dried cement. If it's dried cement, you know it's not an
Oh
accident,
my
right?
God, right?
Ah, that's the thing. If it was like sloshing around in there, it's like, okay, maybe they dropped it, kicked it off the ladder or whatever the hell. But if it was dried cement, and you did that shit on purpose.
Yeah, you know, damn well. I mean, it wouldn't matter either way because it would be heavy enough full. But you'd think like if you accidentally kicked it, it would spill on the way down and maybe not be enough force to kill
Yeah,
her.
they definitely held the handle and dropped it straight, right? They were just like,
Right.
boop, perfect clean drop where the bottom would
what
hit
are the
you.
odds? I know cells are small, so like that's
Yeah.
it kind of narrows the target a bit, but still.
She probably wasn't
Just hit
moving
her
either.
directly in the head. That's quite a coincidence.
Right. She probably wasn't like pacing back and forth, She's probably just like sitting reading a book or something. Easy.
And then you
Sitting
think
up.
about her sister, Maria Luisa Gonzalez Venezuela, Eva the leggy one,
Yeah,
she went
of
by.
course.
She would coincidentally die alone in her cell at the Arapato jail on November 19th, 1984. Her body, already being eaten by rats, was discovered a day later. And this is one of those where it's like,
well, good for you, whatever.
once again, coincidence.
Look, they didn't find her body for a day, so no one was feeding her or nothing. I mean,
This
that's
was
kind of what she
a
gets.
month-
That's some good justice.
This is a month and 2 days after her sister was hit in the head with a concrete bucket, accidentally, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, there's a bit of Epstein-ness here to this.
I think they just let her starve.
Yeah.
Oh, you
That's
think
possible.
somebody that she was working with that she could have rolled over on?
I think somebody in the jail killed her. That's what I'm
okay,
saying.
okay. You think it was a hit? Not just out of like this is a horrible person, not like in the way that child molesters are killed in prison. Not in
I
that
think
way.
someone, maybe there was like an early day GoFundMe raised by the villagers
Mm-hmm.
who wanted to lynch these girls that was kind of like gifted in an envelope to one of the jail workers.
Well,
And they went in there and took care of business. That's what I'm thinking.
or it could be a corrupt politician or someone in law enforcement that didn't want the girls to roll over on him or her.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Once again, that's very Epstein as well.
That's what I thought you meant by that.
Very Epstein.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah, so amazingly, though, one of these sisters would get out and go on to live her life. Maria de Jesus Gonzalez Venezuela, the youngest of the sisters, would be the only one freed. And it's unknown why or when she was freed, but legend has it that she met a 64-year-old man in prison, and once both were outside, they married and lived their life in obscurity, finally dying of old age in the mid-1990s.
Their prisons are integrated?
Yeah, apparently. She's able to meet the 64-year-old. Maybe he came to visit her. Maybe there was visitation. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know.
maybe he wasn't being held in the prison.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe it
I
was like
got
one of
you.
those where he started writing to her, one of those type of things.
Ah, yeah. That makes more sense. Or he was a guard.
Who knows?
Could have been a prison guard. You see
Who
that
knows?
shit
This
all
was
the
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty crazy. But I mean, I guess if any of them got away, the one thing I'll say is she, at least when she had her chance, got away from the sisters and away from the farm. So maybe she was not as cool with what was going on there, but she felt like she couldn't say anything because
She was the youngest.
for fear of her sisters. Yeah, we don't really have a whole lot of detail of the dynamics of the inner workings of the relationships of these sisters. It's quite possible that Maria, only was there as long as she had to where until she could get away. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So if any of them were gonna get out of prison after doing their time, I'm the most okay with her, I suppose.
I'm curious as to how old she was. You don't really hear a lot of that, how old these sisters were. She's the youngest.
She was the youngest, so
of three
was
sisters.
she, in her early
4.
20s when this was going on, or
Right. Or was she even younger? Was she the age of the girls and used as like a lure? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
how old was she? Because if you're talking four girls, I mean, I would say from oldest to youngest, you got at least 8 to 10 years.
yeah.
So if the oldest one is, starting to do this stuff in her 30s, I mean, she's only 20, most likely.
Yeah.
So I doubt they waited till they were 30s to start doing this shit. They were raised in it.
Yeah.
So she could have been a child herself through the majority of this. All right.
Yeah. So let's briefly touch on how this body count got higher.
Yeah.
Unofficially, there's 91 official, but in 2002, workers clearing land for a new housing development in Guanato, down the road from the notorious Loma del Angel Ranch, found the remains of about 20 skeletons in a pit. Authorities said the victims were probably buried there in the 1950s or 1960s, and were most likely victims of the Los Poquianchis.
But like we said,
The Sinister sisters.
They're kind of just saying that because of where they are. But
Where they are, the fact that the bodies would have been put there at the time of their reign.
pretty good
as
probability.
well. I'm going to go ahead and lean. It's probably them.
It's probably
honestly.
them. I mean, if I was a betting man, I'd say it's them.
Yeah, and if this is true, it raises the number of murders past the 110 number. So
Yeah, which we know that. We know that already.
yeah, and once again, at a certain point, it's like 91 versus 110, and they're both just appalling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Exactly.
and it sucks because each individual person was a young girl who was loved by her family and
Yeah.
was unjustly brought in and killed for no reason. So
Right. Adding a number to it doesn't make it any more sensational. It's already appalling.
yeah. All right. Don't let your armpits be appalling, by the way. Get some Oh My Gaia.
That's right, man. But Oh My Gaia's got your back. If you guys don't know what Oh My Gaia is, it's an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And guaranteed, guys, there's a scent that you will love, from vanilla to cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot amber. And we have our very own scent called True Crime Pine. Guys, it has our old school podcast logo on there. We've been partnered with Oh My Gaia for a long time, guys, and that's still one of my favorite scents, along with Barbershop. Also Sailor, another great scent that's come out recently. And if you guys are not into deodorants, some people aren't, there's also scented oil, beard oil, that comes in all of these scents as well. So you guys got to check it out at ohmygaia.com. And because you are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper for 15% off your order. That's CREEPER for 15% off your order at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com. All right.
So just out of curiosity, I looked up the youngest sister, Maria,
Okay.
and she was born in 1924. They were all like in their 40s or older
Wow.
when this was
Okay.
going on, when they were captured
So-
in 1968. So she would have been 44.
Just as responsible.
When, yo, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Well aware of old enough to know what she was doing and what she was a part
yeah.
of. So
No doubt. No doubt. Good info, man.
thank you.
looking
Let's give a big shout out to the person who suggested this case, by
Yeah,
the way.
we should. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I do. Big shout out to Alex Perez, who hit us up on Instagram and suggested the Los Poquianchis.
Hell yeah.
And hopefully we didn't butcher the beautiful Spanish language too bad. Hopefully you enjoyed our take on this case, and thank you for the suggestion. If you guys want to suggest stuff to us, there's many ways, but I'd say email is the best.
Yes.
Just to send us details on what case you want covered, and we will always get back to you and we'll always look into it. We can't promise that we'll cover that case, but we'll consider it.
That's right.
Thank you, Alex.
Sometimes timing is everything. That's all we can say, right? Sometimes it just hits us at a right time, and we happen to be looking for cases, and then boom, there it is. Some fall by the wayside. So if you have suggested something and you think it's a great case for us, suggest it again, because they kind of get buried after a while. So, but we appreciate that very much, guys. Thank you. All right. Anything else?
Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/truecrimeguys. $2 a month gets you access to that one episode that you haven't been getting to hear every month that we do exclusively for Patreon.
Right.
$2 gets you that. And all of the episodes prior to that we did where you missed it.
I was thinking we
got to bump up to $5 a month. Go ahead.
I was going to say we got to have somewhere around 40 or 45 Patreon episodes or something like that. I would say.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, we got to be somewhere around there, Patreon exclusives. And they're all...
We were about a year into doing True Crime Guys when we started our Patreon, I think. So we've been doing it for...
a little over 3 years.
Over 3 years.
So there's at least 36 to 40 episodes on there somewhere. Not to mention all the extra content that we have. That page... How big are Patreon servers? How long do they...
I don't know. We're testing it.
We are. We're expanding the shit out of that thing. So that...
Yeah, because also with that $2 a month, you get the whole catalog of Higher Thoughts that Michael did years
That's
ago.
right, season 1, I call it.
Show. Yeah, you go on a journey with him back when he lived in Southern Nevada, not far from me, and then he journeyed back to North Carolina, and a lot of that stuff is talked about on there. And you get episodes with Michael and his wife, Michael and other friends, and
it's a great pullback of the curtain.
Smoking up and having a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. You're featured on an episode. I think I released.
I've been a few episodes.
One episode with you I released on the free platform. So you guys could check that out if you want to get a little sample of how Higher Thoughts went down. We had a lot of fun with that.
And then if you wanted to bump up to the $5 a month tier on Patreon, you get Just the Banter, a show that me and Michael do every Friday where we just shoot the shit. People give us questions. We answer them. You get to know us a little bit more.
It's a great way to be
learn what our favorite foods and cars and more about our families and all types of stuff if you are interested in that stuff.
Right. It's a great way to be part of the conversation on a weekly basis. It's another way to get to know us hosts a little bit better. So it's a lot of fun.
And we just recorded episode 32 of that. So if you become a $5 patron, you get a ton of content right off the bat.
Good luck weeding through
that stuff. And you get a very prestigious gold Creep Van sticker as well.
That's right. That's the most important thing. Guard that with your life.
That's
Be
right.
careful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it goes well with laptops, cars, coffee mugs. It fits pretty much anything. So makes it look better immediately. So, but if you're already a patron, check out our other show, Strange and Unexplained. Wherever you listen, new episodes are released on Mondays. And every 4th episode of Strange and Unexplained is a special episode I like to call Sandu Stories, where it's like an old-time radio show where we do a little more production. There's voice actors, one of my favorite actors being Lorne, of course. Duh.
It's audio theater.
It's
theater of the mind.
That's what we call it. There we go. So every 4th episode of Strange and Unexplained is a Sandu Stories episode, and it will be on Patreon exclusively starting this month. So if
you want to hear me voice act as a killer,
yes,
that's the show.
That's the show because the killer always has the best and the most lines. So Lauren gets them, of course, obviously.
Yeah.
But the first 3 chapters of Sandu Stories are available on the free platform, Strange and Unexplained, or you can search True Crime Guys in your podcast app. And guys, check out...
And you'll see it pop up next to us.
Yeah, exactly. And also, guys, check out our merch, truecrimeguys.threadless.com. Anything True Crime Guys Productions. We got tons of designs on there. And there's links to everything that we plug, guys, right below the description of this episode, as well as sources that we use to study. So, there you go.
Yep. And if you don't follow us on social media yet, we're at True Crime Guys Twitter, at True Crime Guys on Instagram. We have a Facebook page. We have a closed group for Facebook run by Michelle K, loyal listener.
That's right.
And you can get on there and be around a bunch of other creepers and talk about the show, talk about whatever.
Right.
Whatever suits you. So you will be brought into the fold of a group of creepers.
Oh, and I got one more announcement. Then I'm gonna leave you guys. The True Crime Guys mixtape. True Crime Guys Killer Mixtape,
baby.
The first ever album, is coming out June 18th. Mark it on your calendars.
Mark it on your
Set
calendars.
an alarm on your phone. Tell Spotify to download it for you automatically. I don't even know if it can do that. But just look for it on Spotify. It'll be everywhere. iTunes,
And we will continue to talk about it leading up to it as
Absolutely.
well for the next 13 days.
Absolutely. 13 days, that's it? Oh, my God. It's coming. It's approaching.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Actually, 12 days. Sorry, it's June 6th
That's
today.
right.
We're recording this on Sunday, June 6th. My son's birthday. Happy birthday to my son.
Right.
He's 4 today.
Right on, right on. Happy birthday,
So I got
Stet.
to wrap this up.
All right.
Yep.
All right, guys. That's it.
All right, y'all. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder, get murder, get murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.